Move around though. Buenos días. Bienvenidos a todos. Welcome to all of you. Estoy muy feliz con su presencia. I'm very happy with your presence here today. This is an ongoing tradition that we have celebrated Dia de los Muertos together here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. And many of you have heard the story that I've shared before that Margaret Canavan, my dear friend of many, many years and clinical social work colleague, was the one who enticed me into this, where she told me that I could do this because she used to do it for UU many, many decades ago. And so I've had the opportunity of doing that over the years. And in fact, last year, when we ended, I told Mary Case that that would be the last year that I would do it. But I'm kind of like Cher, who did her last concert, and then she came back, and she did her last concert, and she came back, and she did her last concert. So I think I am doing the same thing too. So I appreciate your desire to continue to have these presentations and to celebrate Day of the Dead. My remarks will be somewhat brief, but I wanted to remind you, and it's kind of funny, I was hearing a story about the program being delivered for printing, and that the person at the print shop asked to keep a copy of the guidelines that I shared with all of you, because she said that her family celebrated this, but she never understood and knew in particular why certain things were used. And I think that's what happens with Dia de los Muertos, is that there's a little bit of a mystery about what is it about, what's its significance, and sometimes there's a little fear. And combine that with the notion that, generally speaking, in the United States, even though we see things changing, that we have, for the most part, have been considered to be very death-denying. It has gotten better, with the onset of hospice organizations and services decades ago. There seemed to be more recognition and acknowledgement about grief and about loss. But generally speaking, even now, I think there's still a tendency to have some avoidance of discussions about death, or even our death. If you've ever been around Kay and Dorothy and myself recently, we spend a lot of time lately talking about our final wishes at death. And Amy, you've been a part of those conversations too. And you'd probably be wondering, why are they always talking about, their wills and their wishes and all of that? Well, because it's a reality, and it's a way of preparing. And I think for me, I have had people I know who did not plan accordingly. And so when they died, people that were tending to their business didn't know what they wanted, what their wishes were. And let alone, maybe they didn't even have a will available for people to follow. So this service really does bring death to life, and it does remind us that we can talk about it, that we can even celebrate. So just as a reminder, when you look at the significance of Dia de los Muertos for the culture, especially for the Mexican culture, because that's where it started, but this is now celebrated even beyond to other Latino groups, to Central America, South America. There are many, many families, even non-Latino, non-Hispanic persons are taking on this kind of celebration. The significance really hinges upon 4 different components. The first is the significance of life. These holidays have a central purpose for us to celebrate the lives of those who've gone before us, those beloved people in our lives. Not to mourn, because you do often give yourself permission to mourn because it's there. It's part of grief. But it's to celebrate their life, to acknowledge what they brought to you in life, what they gave to you. And it's a joyous occasion. If you look up here, and every year, it seems to grow and develop. I love the fact that many of you, Anna, you brought flowers to honor your daughter, and I'm sure you're sharing it with the others at the table. And we have another set of flowers up there, besides the tissue paper flowers that are here. So it's about joy, and it's about the beauty of the relationship that you had. The second component has to do with a spiritual connection. It provides us a spiritual and emotional connection to the deceased. Families believe that the souls of their loved ones can revisit us, can come to us, and it's a way of our preparing for their return. So not to create fear, but in my mind, I envision that through those two back doors, that since we began the service at 10:30, that we have a host of loved ones that have joined us, that are here because they smelled the marigolds, because Dad knows there's a beer waiting for him up here. He's here. He probably was here a little bit early. That it was important for them to come and to be with us during this time. So it brings about that spiritual connection. The third significance is that it's a way of, as I said earlier, to allow us to embrace death as a part of life. That just by not talking about it doesn't mean that you take it away from your life. It's always there. It is indeed a part of life. So this tradition reflects a view that death is natural, that it's normal, and that it is helpful often when we can be more death accepting than death denying. The fourth and final significance has to do with what it has created for us in this congregation. It's the family and the community unity. We come together as a fellowship, and it strengthens the bond between all of us, not just with our deceased loved ones, but with one another. So when I hear about Vera's husband, when I hear about Anna's daughter, when you hear me talk about the significance of the loss of my parents, it brings us closer together as a congregation. And it's all about honoring our ancestors and feeling the joy and in acknowledging that we celebrate their life. Just for those of you who may be new to this process, and I do want to thank Pam and James, who helped me yesterday to come into the fellowship and set things up at the table. Took us no time, but it just comes to life all of a sudden. The marigolds, even though I ran all over town looking for marigolds, I should have bought them earlier, but we have this flower here as a significance of the marigolds. It's considered that they represent the incense and the smell that the spirits need, that they will follow the smell of the marigolds to come and find us, to be with us, to join us. The candles that are lit here as well as on the table, are a way of providing light to the spirits as they make this journey back to us. The water, you may not see the bowl that's there with water, is to be able to quench the thirst of those spirits as they come back to join us. And again, Dad has a beer. He may do some water, but he's going to have that beer as well. The skeletons, or the calacas and the calaveras, the skulls, they represent too the figurines that we might use to reflect that death has happened, that death has occurred. And they become part of what we call an altar, or in Spanish, it's the ofrenda. It's our way of setting the stage for the spirits to come back. And the food that we bring, and I notice some of you have brought bread. I bought some sugar cookies that are at the table and had to watch Kay the whole time so that she would not eat them before they got here to the table, but they made it. Those two are a way of remembering the things that were special and were part of our loved ones. And so what I wanted to share with you too is a way of honoring our loved ones. This is a great book. If you've not seen it, it's by John Donahue, and it's a series of prayers for different things, any kind of life issue that you may be experiencing. It's called To Bless the Space Between Us, and in there is a prayer or blessing having to do with the death of the beloved. And I want to share just a few excerpts with you. Though we need to weep your loss, you dwell in that safe place in our hearts, where no storm or night or pain can reach you. Your love was like the dawn brightening over our lives, awakening beneath the dark, a further adventure of color. The sound of your voice found for us a new music that brightened everything. Though we cannot see you with outward eyes, we know our soul's gaze is upon your face, smiling back at us from within everything, to which we bring our best refinement. Let us not look for you only in memory, where we would grow lonely without you. You would want us to find you in the present, beside us when beauty brightens, when kindness glows, and music echoes eternal tones. When orchids brighten the earth, darkest winter has turned to spring. May this dark grief flower with hope in every heart that loves you. May you continue to inspire us to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage and love until we see your beautiful face again, in that land where there is no more separation, where all tears will be wiped from our mind, and where we will never lose you again. And that is from John O'Donohue. I think I said John Donahue earlier. Step down. Okay. Can you hear me on this microphone? This is dangerous with the microphone. Have you ever seen me do Tina Turner? I'm not going to do that now. I am going to model for you a little bit about the expectation now that you can share about your loved one with all of us. Let me get my picture of Mom and Dad. And as I said earlier, statues are often used that sometimes remind us of our loved ones. This is a reminder of my mom and dad. You notice this couple is very well dressed. They used to, when I was a youngster, they would do a lot of dances and balls, and they were part of the Pennsylvania, which is a social club for Mexican Americans, and they loved it. So at least once a month, they dressed and we go out. And definitely this fits for that. And that $10 bill with it is a little piece of paper that Dad found. I don't know where. But you'll notice it's not really a $10 bill. And he thought it was cute. He would often pull that out and he would share it and say, "You want $10?" And at first it was funny, and then it was, "Dad, no, they don't know." But here they are, picture form. And I am one of 5, and I am the most attractive. I was the joy of their life. Who says yes? I'll give you the $10 after. Pardon? Oh. I was the most beautiful child of the 5 children that Fred and Monica had, and most congenial. And I brought the joy to their life. And I was a love baby, a love child. That is true. But anyway, and I wanted to share briefly as I close that my first real exposure to Dia de los Muertos was when my grandmother died, and I was very close to her, and I was about 7 years of age, and I saw my mother going through the grief of the loss of her mother, and she had a little altar that she put up, and then we would go to the cemetery every week. And it was part of a day of things that we did as a family. We would jump in the car and they would take us all around Houston, and we would see how Main Street was developing over time with restaurants and things like that. But when we would get to the cemetery, Abuelita, my grandmother, was buried in between two Asian gentlemen. And their families would bring lots of food, like pig's feet, pork, and that would be there. And I was always so sad because I told Mom, Grandma doesn't have any food. She's not getting to eat. Can we bring some tamales or something for her to have? And my mother said to me in her endearing voice, she said, it's okay, they are sharing with her. So, and that was all I needed, was to have that encouragement that she was okay. So this is the time when those of you that want to say a little bit about your loved one or to point out the picture that you have here, this is your time to do that. And some of you may not want to do that right now, but we are with you in acknowledging, because I'm feeling that all of you have someone or many, many someones that are here with you today. Okay?
Good morning, I'm Rachel, and many of you know that my mom accepted the invitation to go home to God, and she was very devout, on July of this year. And I'm so delighted to get the reminder of this altar. I'm going to point to her picture because it's sitting on her altar in my home, which of course I forgot the picture. But this has inspired me. I mean, I talk to my mom still because she's there. I have a little altar with cards that people sent and flowers and candles. And so thank you for letting me share that, and thank you for the inspiration. And my mom actually liked marigolds. That's the flower she taught me to de-head, right? So the flowers, the blooms would come back. So I'll go find some marigolds somewhere.
So I'm Beverly, and this is a picture of my husband, Gary. It's been 17 years since he died, and I think about him every day. He's the first person in my life who I ever felt cared about me and saw me as who I was. And I have a little altar at home with a little skeleton cat, because we both love cats. And I found in the grocery store of all places, I found a candle with the skeleton on it and all the pretty roses. And I burned it yesterday. Something I read that November 1st is often for children, remembering children, and November 2nd was for remembering adults. I don't know if that's true or not. But I had a miscarriage at 16 weeks, so I burned it yesterday for that little baby, and I'll burn it today when I get home for Gary.
I'm Lodi, and I'll try to get through this without crying. I have just enough Irish in me that I'm very sentimental. I brought pictures today of my maternal grandparents. This is from 1908 when they married, and I'm named for her. And these are my parents. I was able to care for both of them before they passed. And this is my brother. I took care of him for 6 months before he passed. My father and my brother died on exactly the same day, 25 years apart. And I think of all of them every day.
This is my husband, Vince, and I was deciding who from my people who are gone I will bring this time. I bring him already, but because he is born on 25th November, then he's a Turkey boy, and he always we always celebrate in this time, and with him I first time celebrate Day of Death in California, because in museum you can make a little place like little grave and celebrate, and we have not place to go to our ancestors, no him, no me, and it was a very good situation because you have a place to go somewhere very far. And I bring also some food for him and some little soldier, like Ukrainian Cossack on the horse, because he was speaking Russian and he was many times like working in this field. And this is it. Yeah.
Thank you, Vera. And I want to acknowledge that Vera brought the lights that are around the wreath. And that's the joy of this celebration, is people every time bring something and say, can you use this? Can we use this as part of the ceremony? So thank you, Vera.
I'm Dorothy, and I'm going to talk about my friend Robin Bouchon, whom many of you know. I've already talked about her through all the really sad times when she was dying in May. I'm still sad because every time I go to my front door, my front windows, I can look out and I can see her house, and she's not there, and she's not going to be. But I can move now more into the celebration of her. And so what I want to say is, yesterday was her birthday. And Robin loved her birthday. And she was kind of a force. And if you didn't celebrate her birthday, you're in trouble. And so, of course, I always celebrate. And she had like 15 different lunches during her birthday. It's amazing. So yesterday, in my own home by myself, I sang happy birthday to her. And the night before, her husband Will was over celebrating another little thing we used to do, which on Halloween, the three of us sat outside my house and gave out Halloween candy. And he had a much bigger picture of her on the table. And then we also said happy birthday to her. So happy birthday, Rob.
Well, I'm just going to say Tom. That's all I need to say. It's not been quite 4 months yet, but yeah. That's it.
I want to talk about my husband, Roger. I'm really sorry that none of you were ever able to meet him. We met in high school and was true love for 55 years. He helped me transition from being a devout Catholic to one of a broader mind about spirituality. And as I shed the automatic sentiments of Christianity, the last one I gave up was being able to reunite with people in the afterlife, because I really want to see him. Maybe I will.
These are my parents. They were married for 62 years and raised 9 children. I was their favorite. Yeah. Martha was second. And I put them behind Tom today. They would have really liked him.
I brought 2 different pictures. This is my brother that died last January. He had developed a very aggressive and rare cancer. He had 3 sisters, no brothers, and he took care of all of us with his things, and we all inherited some really nice things because he was a collector and an artist, and so that was nice. And this is Pat, me and Pat. Pat was a lot of fun. That's how I think of him. He was a lot of fun. We did all kinds of crazy things. We went to concerts, road trips. This is us on a cruise. Every day I think there's some little tickle in my brain, like maybe a quick step around the corner, because he did walk fast. And, or I might be on the phone and I have a long hallway, so I'll be walking down the hallway on the phone, turn around, come back. And that's Pat. He would spend an hour on the phone pacing at so much that I had to re-polyurethane the hallway floor. But that's.
I brought a picture of my mom, Ellie Carlson over here, and her sister, my Aunt Fran. Ellie had 5 children. I was the best, the middle child, the only daughter, so I was special. And my Aunt Fran, her sister, was a nun, so she had no children, but she was also a nurse, a pediatric nurse. And these 2 women are my idols. Travel was very important to them, and they traveled the world. This was a cruise out of Galveston that we all got to go on with our families. And my mom and my aunt made possible my first trip to Europe. We went to Scotland and Ireland and Wales and London. And my Aunt Fran has researched our family ties. They were great cooks. I should have some cookies and candy up here because they made the best holiday meals and treats. That's it.
I'm Carolyn Lundy, and these are my parents.
You perhaps have heard me mention my father. He died before I turned 1. He was drowned. And he has been my guardian angel and teacher of unconditional love. And if there's a message that he has for all of us, it is that the veil is very thin and we are flooded with love. My mother followed him in death, some 50 years older, so 50 years later. And I am the end of the line for this branch on the family tree. So I will proudly carry the name Lundy to the very end.
Can you hear me? Okay. I am touched by your participation, quiet participation, as well as your willingness to come up front and tell a few things about your loved ones. I have a homework assignment for all of you in the room today, that since we are celebrating your loved ones, and usually we think of the period of time of October 31st through November 2nd as being the highlight of the celebration. But as many of you have heard, you can have your altar and have it up for as long as you want, if that's what you so choose. But starting now, and maybe for a few days, I want for you to, at times, put your hand over your heart and close your eyes and to think of someone that you love and miss. And just let your mind think about something special that they brought to you. And I'm just asking you, you don't have to do it right now, but in your own space, once you leave here, not while you're driving, put your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and think about your loved one. I always think about something my mother said to me from child to adulthood. Whenever I would be in a rift or conflict with a sibling or with my dad, she would always say, "That's your brother, that's your sister, you love them. We don't fight or have conflict with them." And I know when she died and I would have rifts with them, I would say to her, "Yes, you do have conflict with them. We do." But the essence of what she was trying to convey is that they're always your sibling and you always love them. So that's what I want you to try to do, is to remember something they said, something they loved. Sue mentioned about her aunt and her mother being good cooks, and the holiday cookies and candy. Give yourself permission to remember them in a special way. And thank you again. I won't be like Cher and tell you this is my last time, but watch for the concert next year. Thank you.